I'm your host, Jeff Sart. We're going to take you behind the scenes with the craft distillers who are pouring their heart and soul into crafting the next version of America's Spirit. This is the Great American Whiskey Cookers. In this 4-part mini-series, we sit down with Ryan Cecil and Kenny Coleman of Pursuit Spirits, and we get an in-depth look into how Ryan is blending the award-winning spirits coming out of this non-distiller producer. We're going to pull back the curtains and see just exactly what the wizard is doing to build these blends. So then starts the blending process as to how you do this.
Correct. Yeah. So basically what we'll do is just take small little samples of each sample, and that'll kind of be like, all right, from my notes that I took, back 3 or 4 months ago when I first tried these barrels, these barrels should be on the profile that we're looking for, but you have to taste them just to make sure they can change. They can, whiskey's an evolving thing. So you can taste thing one day, and then the next day, 3 months later, it can taste completely different. So we just like to quality check them, make sure, and then from there, based on what we taste, we start building the pieces together.
All right. Okay, Ryan, so you've got a lot of crap here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not just dumping barrels.
No, it's not. We with our partner distilleries, we keep all the barrels at each location to keep the terroir. As you can see, like this is our Tennessee sample we pulled yesterday. Look how much darker it is. This is, a 4.5-year-old whiskey. These two are 7-year-old Kentucky bourbons, and then this is a 4.5-year-old wheated bourbon but you can see how much darker this is.
Yeah.
And because Tennessee gets about 8 to 10 more weeks of summer heat, and so that whiskey gets more wood absorption, more extraction, so it just kind of produces a more robust flavor profile at a younger age.
And when you're sampling barrels, or you're deciding which barrel is ready and which barrel is not ready, are you doing that purely off of taste? Are you using some other process, or how are you making the choice that this barrel is ready and this barrel is not ready?
Yeah, so
does it taste good?
Yeah, does it taste good? So,
well, and that's what it comes down to. It's whiskey, right?
Yeah,
it tastes good.
So we have 4,500 barrels in inventory amongst our 4 partner distilleries. So once a year, we request samples when something is at least turned 4 years old.
Okay.
And from there, our team here starts tasting through them, and we are kind of their guidance counselors. Okay, yes, you're ready to come to Kentucky here to be a part of the blend, or no, you need to hang back maybe for a couple more years, to get some more age on you, some more oak development. So it's really a lot of tasting, a lot of sampling to really be picky and choosy about what we put in our products.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to be picky and choosy. We're going against titans of the industry.
You are.
For the most part. We're in bourbon's backyard here in Louisville, Kentucky, and our whiskey has to stand up to some of the heavy hitters out there. And if it doesn't, it's gonna fall flat. So knowing that we have to develop a product that's gonna hit all the check boxes that a whiskey lover is going to want, that's really what we have to aim for, because we're going against your Brown-Formans, your Sazeracs, your Heaven Hills that are all here right next door to us.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a question I like to ask all the craft distillers is, what makes your whiskey, your bourbon unique? Why do you think you can compete against the big six, the big bourbon?
Yeah. I mean, for us, I feel like we compete because we're trying to be different. As people are getting this hobby, I think, as the podcast has shown us, is that we pay too much attention to whiskey and what people are thinking and how they're getting into it. And we know that those big 6 distilleries, those are what a lot of people get into as your first hit of crack. It's your baseline. It's what gets you into this, that's why we need them there. That's why their prices are so low. But at some point, people are looking to find what's next. I'm ready to go beyond that. I don't want 90 proof. I want something a little bit more. I want cask strength. I want something new. And we're going to be that 102 level. We're going to be that next phase of, okay, you're going to spend a little bit more money to try to get our bottle, but the flavor is going to be able to match that price point as well. That's really what we're trying to do, is find that perfect balance between them.
Okay.
Yeah. And to the big distilleries, they rely on the barrel. As we might have talked about, in bourbon, 80% of the flavor comes from the interaction with the wood. And for them, that's just patience and time. And they have a 100-year head start on us.
They do.
So the way that we could produce flavor at a much faster rate or younger age was by blending those different mash bills. Because each mash bill has, a typical or a particular flavor profile that's going to bring out flavors, and we're not relying on the wood to provide those flavors. So we really feel like our niche in blending is really what helps us compete against the big, 6 distilleries, which have paved the path for us, and we all love them. But we're just trying to create our own little small niche, and our products have done well. We've won 4 double golds in San Francisco between our bourbon and rye. We won John Barleycorn's Best Bourbon of the Year, going against some of the titans in the industry. So we're proving ourselves amongst those big distilleries, and we're really excited about where we're headed.
Good. All right, so walk me through this.
Okay.
How do you blend? What is this process? And I'm curious as hell.
Yeah. So first off, we just start by tasting. So we'll pour just a little sample of each one. And
you're doing this all by sensory, all by tasting.
yes, it's all just sensory and tasting.
We don't have the money to buy real lab equipment. I think that's the other part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not looking at glycol levels and all this other kind of stuff and putting it into a DMA to get all these kind of readouts. No, I mean, it's literally our nose and our tongue.
Yeah, and so for most distilleries, they have, like we talked, thousands of barrels in stock. Typically with their tasting panels and whatnot, will go taste it, specific lots of barrels that are produced, on a certain day. They take samples from those, and they feel that those samples will be a whole representation of every barrel in that lot. So they'll take, a couple samples and choose 1,000 barrels from that lot. Or with us, we're tasting every single barrel and making sure that it meets our criteria before it goes into a bottle.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just small blends, small releases. So we have to be meticulous about every single one that goes into it.
So this is our Tennessee component. What I love about and why we chose this is as we talked about that sweet, fruity, oaky, spicy.
Yep.
This really hits the sweet fruit and oak.
Yeah.
3 of them. And it's really a fantastic product that we love building our blends off of. So on the nose, I just get like some raspberries, strawberries, bright fruits, a little bit of chocolate, toasted oak on it.
Yep. I picked up that raspberry.
Yeah. It's bright and fruity.
Yeah. Really fruity.
I'm really excited.
Already. It was delicious. Like I said, this is one of my favorites. It's got some depth to it as well.
It does. And so this is straight out of the barrel.
Correct. So,
And it's from you said your Tennessee distillery.
correct. So it's an 80-10-10. So an 80% corn, 10% rye, 10% barley.
Okay.
Mash bill. This was actually put in, I can't remember the Seguin Moreau. So we work with a bunch of different coopers across the country, Independent Stave, Kelvin, Seguin Moreau, and a few others to really, because the barrels give a lot of different flavors. And so partnering with those and matching those different flavor profiles give us, more flavor and things to choose from.
All right. So what would you put down for I'm assuming that you would keep like meticulous notes as you're doing this, right?
Yeah. So because of that
He doesn't have his notebook with him.
I don't have that.
He does have his little black book up in the office.
So just tasting this off the bat, I love this expression. This would be a great base to build off of.
Okay.
Just because it's got that sweet, that fruitiness, and that oakiness.
Right.
There's a little bit of spice because of the proof that's at. It's that cask strength, but in our blends, we typically proof around 108 proof because we feel that's the most balanced. So once we proof that down, it'll kind of tame down that spice.
Okay.
But the sweet and fruitiness is what excites me about this.
All right. So then you would move on to the next one.
Correct. So,
That's super fruity.
yeah.
Super sweet.
And that's what, an American palate loves sweetness, and I do too. And that's why bourbon, I think, is so popular because of those real sweet, vibrant notes.
Right. And you talk about, you guys are very transparent on who all your distillers are.
We're very transparent.
Yes.
That's the weird thing. It's like in American whiskey in general, there is this notion of what maybe people don't realize is that if you go look at the store shelves, 80% of it is made by 6 distilleries.
Right.
And it's just all rebranded in some different way. We come with a different angle of, by the way, when I say when it's from all the same distilleries, these are different non-distilling producers that are buying all this whiskey and just putting it on the shelf.
Right.
But they're not telling you exactly where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And we looked at it and we said, and actually I'll give hat off to my wife on this one, and she said, are you a whiskey company or are you a marketing company? Because at the end of the day, they're marketing companies. They're trying to sell the story, they're trying to sell the label, but they're not trying to sell you on the whiskey. our thought process was, well, we want to flip that around. We want to be a whiskey company. We really want to put the whiskey first and then kind of build it off from there, because if we can put a great product in the bottle, people will latch onto it. And once they find it, then they'll become believers as well.
And the only distillery you don't release is your Tennessee, because we have an NDA with the Tennessee distillery.
Correct. Yeah, we've begged them to let us announce them, because we want to highlight how great they are. Because with Tennessee bourbon, there's a stigma, and we feel like they're making some of the best whiskey in America. So we want to help highlight them. That's what we do with all our distilleries. We want to showcase that they're great distillers, we're great blenders. Yeah. And so we want to highlight them, but I get it. They have other contract partners that don't want people knowing that they're getting it from them. So, we understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So what's this barrel here?
So this is a Kentucky bourbon made for us by Bardstown Bourbon Company. It's a 78-10-12. It's about 7.5 years old. And what I love about this mash bill, typically it has that, this nuttiness, this chocolatiness, the caramel, vanilla, a lot of classic Kentucky flavor profiles, because that's, what consumers like as well.
Yeah. It's going to be your classic Kentucky profile, your caramel, vanilla, a little bit of spiced into it.
Yeah, that one's like a gooey Heath bar on the front of it.
What a description.
And they've got that nice little peppery back spice.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I can tell you right now, the big human is off camera, and he's just cringing because he loves Bardstown Bourbon Company. He loves their whiskey.
Yeah, they make
we love them too.
Stuff. We love them too. We have a great partnership with their whole team. We've been fortunate enough to collab with them on some of their products, and they have a great team of resources and all of the fancy equipment that we don't have. So if we ever need it, we just have to go there. Yep.
Speaking of fancy equipment, let me see that. I'll get a proof for us.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, you tasted two now, right? You got Tennessee and then this one here from Bardstown. And you said the Tennessee one would be a good base.
Yep.
So when you say that, and then you have this one, what are you thinking in your head?
Yeah. So after tasting through these, I really like that one because of that gooiness, that caramels. So now I'm kind of like, all right, well, this one's more fruity, this one's more sweet. So I need to taste this one to see how can, doing those two, that would just be sweet and fruity. So I really need some that's more spicy and oaky. So I need to taste through them all to kind of figure out. But if I was just doing those two barrels, I would probably do about a 60-40 ratio for the Tennessee to the...
Okay, so you would take 60% of the barrel, use that, and 40% of the other barrel. What would you do with the rest of it then?
Yeah, so we would just save it for another blend or another batch. But that's why we typically don't do 2-barrel batches. We try to do 3 or 4 or 5. That way we can have, 2 Kentucky or 2 Tennessee or one, try to make the math work out. And if not, we save it for another batch. And that's what's cool too about being so small, is that we can use partial barrels, that we can use a third of a barrel, half a barrel, 3/4, just depending on, it's just the constant tinkering to find that happy place.
Okay. I don't like it from a compliance standpoint.
I'm sure
I have to figure it out and say, this is what we dump, this is what goes into it. Or
the paperwork has to be...
It is a lot. But I mean, when we do that, we just have to make notes and say like, okay, 1/3 of this barrel went here. And then when you do go dump it, you have to figure it all out of the back end.
What was the proof on that?
That was actually 119.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good, wow. That's impressive.
And that is an entry proof of 125, so it came down in proof.
Sure.
And those came off they were on the first floor in the rick house, so I'm not surprised that the proof came down.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So now you have the third one.
The third one, this is another Kentucky 78-10-12. It's actually a sister barrel from the one we just tried. They were made on the same exact day, set right next to each other.
So then why would you pick this one? Is it just because...
because
we got to taste them.
We got to taste them, but in my head, because I thought they were very sweet when I tasted them 3 or 4 months ago. As we talked about, we really like those sweet, fruity. So I want that's a lot of sweetness up front, and then build that fruitiness and spice and oak on the back end. So because typically this mash bill is very rich, decadent, and sweet, I like that to be a base for a lot of our blends.
Okay.
Kind of similar on the nose.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, but I'm getting a little more pepper, a little bit more oak on this one.
Almost a little orange zest as well.
If you haven't already figured out, Ryan's palate is incredibly well developed.
Well, his is too. He's got a good one as well.
Yeah, Kenny's like the final filter. Ryan comes up with these. He was telling me off camera, and then Kenny's like this last filter of is it good or is it not?
Yeah.